turn on all the comments. It's good to see you. Some folks start to filter in. I'll say what's up. We don't have a curated show, but I am going to talk a little bit. It's a political science topic. It's a little bit talking about security, a little bit talking about all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I'm very excited, and let me go ahead and launch this poll real quick, and then we'll get started. Yeah, but if you guys want, as you guys, whatever, just start coming in. If you guys want to say hello in the chat, that's cool. That's cool. Good to see everyone. I see there's a couple people. Hi, I'm Duck. I'm just putting up a poll real quick. I'll be way less awkward and all that stuff in just a second. Cool. Hey, what's up, Beto? Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit today about geopolitics and stuff. Nuclear programs, that kind of stuff, Ukraine. But yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah. And so, yeah, this is one of those sort of grown-up topics, right? It's sort of a grown-up topic. It's covered in political science, it's covered in mathematics, it's covered in game theory. It doesn't have to be that scary. It's not that scary of a topic, right? But we recently saw Pakistan and India have a very brief what's usually referred to as like a skirmish or something like that. And so, yeah, a lot's changed in the world. A lot of stuff has changed in the world. If you guys want to talk about something else cool too, let me know. But I'm just going to keep going on this Ukraine stuff. So, one of the important terms to know, kind of the politics and the military stuff, a little bit around Ukraine and Russia, is about like the nuclear powers, right? NATO, all this other stuff. And so, you kind of have this group of nations, you have these sort of weird soft alliances and stuff. And yeah, it's interesting because if you look at Russia should be a pretty powerful country. Most people consider them to be. There's 3.6 million people in Russia's military. They have many different active state companies doing defense stuff. Companies in the U.S. like we think of like Lockheed Martin, all that kind of stuff. So it's even in 2025, and the war's been going on a while. Some people should think it is a little bit like unusual that we see such a high level of violence in this small place. Hey, Colin, good to see you. Colin Moriarty, that's like the coolest last name I've ever seen. That's like I would pick that last name to be like my fake last name or something. My fake last name if I could pick one. But yeah. Yeah, and so, Russia is unique in that they're one of only 4 countries in the world out of hundreds of countries that have something called a nuclear triad. A nuclear triad. The United States does as well, and you would think everyone does. So that's if we're going to do like a grown-up topic, if we're going to talk about the war in Ukraine, or if you guys want to talk about something else, let me know. But like, yeah, the sort of main thrust is that a nuclear triad includes ICBMs, SLBMs, which are submarines. So most people know about launching missiles. Most people can sort of conceive of what it's like to have a submarine that comes up and launches a missile, and then air-delivered nuclear devices, right? And so that's a little more of the like actual sort of military studies side of like kind of what they got going on under the hood. Yeah, the beard is a nuclear triad, right? This one took me 5 years, actually. It's very nice. 4 or 5 years for this beard to grow. Most days when I wake up, it works. Most days it works. People should be generally confident to know that. I would expect that. Yeah, It's a good beard. Yeah, and so there's 4 nuclear triad countries in the world, and that usually entails, if you look at what it means to be a country that's maintaining the nuclear triad of land, submarine, sea, and air delivered, right? So you have ICBMs, SLBMs, and big airplanes, right? Big airplanes doing the same thing. And so that's that. It's not Britain, actually, right? We think Britain. Some people think Israel might have a nuclear triad, but it's only officially the United States, China, Russia, and India. In India, I believe. It's only 4. Only 4. It's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Yeah, if you guys like this stuff, I like talking about these topics. If you guys want to hit the like button, I appreciate it. But yeah, cool. And also feel free to jump in the chat. Let me know if you guys want to talk about something different, not politics, Epstein stuff, whatever. I'm cool. But I was just going to keep blabbering. So after the Cold War ended, it actually turned out that a lot of countries stopped pursuing or even decommissioned their nuclear triads. And this was with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And this is for really, I think at least one main reason, right? We should imagine that there is like a military or security reason. If countries say we're going to get rid of some of the military capabilities we have, why is that? Why would you ever purposely make yourself weaker? That's sort of how a political scientist might start by asking that question. You're less offensively capable. Yeah, and that's a good point. The fallen slaves Assault says there's no nuclear weapons. You can't lie about it. There's no evidence of it, right? You can't lie about it. There's no evidence of it. But yeah, there are nuclear weapons though, right? And so in whatever year it was, 1992 or 1993, Britain really got behind saying, we're part of NATO. We want to be part of, kind of keeping Europe safe. We want to have understandability and all this stuff. And so what we're going to do is we'll have nuclear submarines. We'll have these nuclear submarines with, I think, Trident II missiles. So still a very capable weapon. It would be difficult to imagine a scenario. This is what mutually assured destruction means. It'd be difficult to imagine a scenario as well when, Britain actually goes out and uses their 4 submarines, right? So they actually count the number of nuclear weapons they have. I think they say they have 225 nuclear weapons on these 4 submarines, thereabouts. And this is just what their nuclear program is now. But it's cool, right? No problem, right? The end of the Cold War, there's no more, red tide. There's no more Great Scare. It turns out that, there's enough money and capital, manufacturing equipment in the world to not just make the West wealthy, not just to sort of secure that democratic Western power, but it's also enough to help other people do that as well. You have Korea really quickly rising up, modernizing, having really beautiful cities, all kinds of stuff. It doesn't sound like that's about nuclear weapons, though. So, maybe that's a question for the audience. During the Cold War, didn't the dolphins help with the nukes? Yeah, there's mine detecting dolphins. I think that's unethical. In any world, in any scenario, I think a dolphin can just swim and eat fish. And yeah, I don't understand why there's so many carnivorous porpoises and other carnivorous animals and stuff. So I would leave that one alone. That's my non-normie side, right? That's my not normie side is, dolphins. I will get around to considering this, but I'm not going to right now. How do you get a chance to look up Manly P. Hall? Sorry, Pro-me, I don't totally understand the question. I apologize, bro person. If you're saying I look manly, I appreciate that. That rarely happens to me. Rarely a guy like me gets that type of compliment. Vic, good to see you again. Long pig is good. Plutocracy and imperialistic capitalism. Yes, Vic is transitioning us to our next reason why Britain didn't form this nuclear triad. why Britain said we can simplify, we can have submarines, we can have Trident 2s. And this is because after the end of the Cold War, most people looked out in the world and said, at some point, there's going to be lots of people and nation states and countries that want to talk about the impact the West has had in the last couple of years, the disproportionate amount of resources they have access to consume and they have access to deploy. Those are all really big things, right? Those are all really big things. And so, so the end of the end of the Cold War, and suddenly sort of what we start seeing is, okay, if we're going to have this conversation, who knows what's the most logical way to do this? In one sense, being able to focus on things like economic competition, being competitive in terms of forming stronger regional alliances, tough political science academic point to get that, yeah, there's globalization, we're all over the world, but one of the ways that we compete is looking closer to home, while still, being able to leverage those relationships to secure sort of this ideological competition. And so some people in the world, not the US historically, but some people in the world will say that, the US imperial power is a big reason why it won the Cold War. And great, now that you won, there has to be a cheaper, a safer, a more game theoretic sound way to sort of manage competition and all this stuff. Manson Platonist. Yeah, Manson Platonist is right. Trump brokered a deal between Russia and Korea in 2017 and Helsinki, giving Kim nuclear power. Trump doesn't have an ounce of diplomacy. Yeah, he's a crass leader for sure. He's a very crass leader. France is another one I'll just touch on. So another non-nuclear triad participating in the nuclear non-proliferation is France. Not that big of a deal. But yeah, their program, I think they got rid of their subs. What did they do? I think they kept air and ICBMs. I think it's a smallish program. But yeah, they're part of the non-proliferation treaty too. And so this is, again, when I asked the question in the comments section, maybe we can come back around to Trump, secret nuclear weapons programs. Maybe we can get some of that stuff in. Not to be conspiracy theory, but it's not that scary because people already by and large decided that we shouldn't have so many large capabilities. And yet, when we still look out at the nuclear triads, you have the United States probably working along with leaders in Europe, trying to deter further aggression from Russia. And you look at Russia and it's this massive, massive military with the nuclear trident, right? So they have everything. They have allegedly and supposedly, based on, estimates, more nuclear weapons than the United States. Generally, at some point you can just say, yeah, that's enough, right? You have enough. You're not going to make yeah, in Ukraine and Russia, absolutely. So Russia is deploying a minority of their very large military, 3.6 million people again, and the military. Who knows? Maybe there are economic constraints. There's high inflation in Russia, but there's many billion-dollar plus companies that produce weapons, which most people would say is more than enough for a country like Russia, who shares so many borders with other states, right? You share a border with Ukraine, and so what are we talking about? Continually each year refreshing and updating our weapons. That was big news out of Britain. Britain was supposed to upgrade and modernize their small nuclear program. So who knows how smart people, if you guys know guys like Andrew Bustamante or John Kiriakou. I think Andrew Bustamante actually worked on a nuclear program at one time. I think he's mentioned that was one of his earlier jobs in the military, not as part of the CIA, but as part of the military. I think he was in a nuclear silo or something, hanging out. So But what was I saying? Yeah. This is, European politics. Europeans always want to say, well, if you share a border, right? You share a border, bud. Doesn't it seem to make more sense that we go out together? We have more in common than we have different. If nothing else, we have this border in common, and so we understand each other. And then, um, you know, and yeah, Russia's always had, opposition with the West. The West has always projected power onto Russia, even after the end of the Cold War. And Russia arguably maybe has been too large, too far behind, had too much of their own unique military, and so some small blend of culture and large military, even after the end of the Cold War, who knows, to competition, not wanting competition as well. So you end up with this situation where, yeah, Russia does have, like the US, many some state, a couple large state-run, like what is it called? Rosnet, Roskreft. Yes, something like this. They have a couple large public companies producing both normal kinetic stuff you don't want to see on the news, but you also, they're going to be producing some of this other bull crap as well. But yeah, and whenever it was 2022, 2023. Britain was supposed to upgrade their program. You announce something like this, and supposed to still be in line with the non-proliferation treaty, and they just never got word back. They never got word back. Nukes are the deceptive psyop. Direct energy weapons are real. Yeah. You hear things about rail guns and all kinds of stuff. Concentrated direct energy weapons and stuff. That stuff's scary too. That stuff for sure is very scary. Very scary. Capitalism without socialism becomes communism. Yeah, and so who knows? Some people, critics in the West, might say, well, the pace of actually discussing imperialism is, as a lot of people call it, having a discussion about liberalism, about having accessible data about human rights, because once you have that data, you can sort of trust that there's going to be a more peaceful world. There's maybe more that you can do, right? And so the conversation about Western exploitation, Western imperialism, all of this maybe happens too fast. Maybe it happens too fast. It's not worth being a conspiracy theorist over, because at the end of the day, when you're talking about democracies or nuclear states, the same sort of rule sets apply. We can think of it more or less in those same exact terms. So what was I going to say? Yeah. So that's cool. So it's just an interesting question, over the last maybe 10 years or so, last 10, 15 years, you've seen the West projecting more power, more economic competition, also tons of economic competition from another nuclear triad nation like China. I'm pretty sure Pakistan, what did it? They got planes and they got some missiles and stuff. I don't know what they have, but you do see these regional sort of power plays. You see, based on sort of ideology a little bit, you see some coming together that, liberalism and trade is really good, and it has to be understandable. And so somewhere within all of this mess, whatever, yeah, you still have the UK saying we're aligned with NATO and we're going to keep this program, which is scary enough that no one should want to mess with that program. But at the end of the day, it's 225 missiles on 4 submarines. We're still doing the same thing. The cat-like creature that eats coffee beans and produces the expensive coffee known as Kopi Luwak is the Asian pond civet. These civets, native to Southeast Asia, consume coffee cherries. Cool. Coffee fruit's good. It sounds like drinking cat pee. I don't know if that's right or not. China is a more demanding country due to overpopulation. Yeah, that's the Chinese central state. China still very agrarian, China is still a very agrarian place. They also have very modern universities, massive, massive, massive sort of like, internal trade structures and stuff like this. They've got Chinese economics, right? They've got China. China itself suffers from interest rates. They always have to go out and fight tooth and nail for everything they have. And so, yeah, population is one part of it for sure. Didn't you pretend to know calculus? No, I don't think so. Maybe I did. If I did know calculus, I would, but... Hey, what's up, Berserker Donkey? Do you guys know what calculus is? It's describing simultaneous changes or something like that. It's, functions and all this other stuff where you can see these sort of, not like an evolving system, but you can just describe how a system is going to change over time. With multiple functions. Yeah, SOS, it's chill. Good to see you. Yeah, it's kind of nice. Kind of chill. But yeah, so that's it. I don't really have it's always scary. It's the thing that's scary is when I see in the news. In the news, when I see stuff like, new attacks from Russia in Kiev, when there's these things that look like they, in some circumstances, would imply like a mobilization. That stuff really it's painful. It hurts me a little bit. I talked to you on Angry Tomato and you pretended to know calculus. You'd have to remind me. Maybe I did. Scathing poo. I don't know. Was it about physics or something knowable? Algebra? Yeah, I mean, I kind of know where, like I'm a butt monkey, right? I know where if you call me a butt monkey and I ask why, I'll say you push the button, monkey, right? So I'm not a math guy. I haven't taken a math class or done math in like 16 years, but I kind of know where those equations are supposed to go, right? I can Google it. You said you knew calc, I shamed you and you left. That's very possible, Scathing Poo. Do you have... Yeah, if you have something on Ukraine or Epstein, that's cool. I honestly don't remember what you're talking about. I would invite you to subscribe if you want to. I'm sorry about shaming you. Yeah, I'd invite you for sure to join when we do a panel or something. I've only done one on the channel, but discussion, debates, whatever. Beto's in chat. He joined. You can reach out to Breakfast Taco. He's another friend of the channel. But yeah, shamed me and then I left. Yeah, so the stuff that's really stressful is that's not news, it's media. Yeah, it's news, it's media. If you want to expand on what you mean, Fallen, but or slave, whatever you want the name to be. But yeah, it's if someone launches a drone or a missile and that drone or missile hits something, that is, there might be media of that, but that's also news, right? There's a story. There's a person who chose to launch that missile. There's a organization like a state actor or a non-state group that did that. There's a reason they selected the target. There was an outcome. It either hit the area. So there's the whole who, what, when, where, why. And so the media is just a video of it happening, or is someone doing an editorial, in my opinion. Kind of by definition. Distracting us from the real news. That's a good point, right? Some people want to know what's going to happen in 15 years, or like what's the stuff we're not talking about instead. Hi again, Scathing Poo. Good to see you. There's also political spin and national propaganda involved. Yeah. So, yeah. And so, you can be upset about the political system you're in. You can be upset about the media system. that you're in. You can be upset about a lot of things, or you can go sort of pick up on like sort of the fine-tuning ways that our national interest and stuff go into different topics, and everybody knows different stuff too, right? Everybody knows different stuff. It's crazy. So, you know, bruh, Galaxy Japan car, what's up? Oh, and we got somebody with Japan in their name. We were talking about nuclear triad nations. We were talking about the non-proliferation countries and the greater Europe neighborhood. You also have Japan. You know, there's countries that have in their constitution they're pacifists. So that's also very cool. I love Sony. I don't know if you're from Japan, but I love Sony. Did you say countries? I did say countries. UK and whoever it was, or whatever. Yeah, whatever you guys want. It's kind of dumb with war media. It should honestly be this simple. Yep, Russia and Ukraine are still beefing on other news. Yeah, they certainly still are. They certainly still are. They both probably have some stuff left in the tank, as it were. You know? But if people cared, you know, they might ask, you know, whoever it is, Rostec or Rosatec, whatever these, you know, these Russian companies are. It's like, well, what's actually good for you and your neighbors, right? What's good for you and like you're a company, right? You're a state company, but you're a company. So what's good for you now and what's good in 20 years? What's guaranteed and not? Melody Gale says hi as well, with 2 eyes. What do eyes represent in physics? I forgot all that crap. It's whatever it is. It's something. Maybe Beto knows. I'm hearing an American accent. Yeah, that's what it is. Considering Epstein, it's not like we would ever know. He was clearly connected to the guy and probably still alive. You guys hearing this? You guys are hearing this? Do you guys think Epstein is still alive? Somebody's probably got an opinion about it. I don't know. No offense, but you look like you are on coke. Cool. Thank you, Scathing Poo. I appreciate you. What do you think if Canada or Mexico was to allow Chinese warships or warplanes into their airspace, the United States would not allow this? Yeah, you could ask why or what they're doing there. You know, there's sometimes coordinated and announced military drills. You know, in one sense, if you guys want to think about it this way, you know, if you're a chess player or you like board games like Stratego or Risk, you know, communication is typically a trait that an ally participates in. And so, you know, there's always upsetness when there's both conflicts and skirmishes, wars, as well as people announcing military drills or just changes you don't understand. But those things being public and there being discussion is still typically a better sign than a bad sign. You know, you don't really gain anything by not talking to someone. I am not Ricardo Sanchez Virtro. I'm not a veteran. Not a veteran. That's cool. Galaxy, were you watching a Grid 1? Are you from that side of the universe? Yeah, who do I think is responsible for Russian oligarchs being thrown out windows and being reported as them jumping out windows? As them jumping out windows. So how did they end up jumping out a window? I don't know. Who do I think is responsible for this? Yeah. Who knows? I don't know enough about Russian politics to truly answer that. Probably, what's his name? Not Rulon Gardner. That guy's an American. What's the big Russian wrestler guy's name? He's in Parliament now. If anybody's on the PC and has another window or something, country balls and all that. I don't think so. I don't know what that is. No, we do philosophy, we do politics, we do social commentary, that kind of stuff. Did debates once. Might do debates again. It's a small channel, very new channel, all that kind of stuff. Where are you from? What's the channel about? Edvinas, good to see you. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona in the United States. And yeah, politics, philosophy, physics, geopolitics, whatever you guys want to talk about. We do normie and non-normie power hours, I think. Yeah, if people post a good question, we'll talk about it in chat. Whatever, people can just talk. You guys can talk to me or talk to each other. I don't know, it's YouTube Live, dude. I'm on a cell phone, so I'm trying to figure some of that stuff out. Thank you. Miraj Khan, hey, good to see you. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. It's not illegal to have fun here. Oh yeah. Hey, K-Dog, I'm sorry to hear that. That's got to be pretty heavy. And so, yeah, hearts out to you. Hearts out to you. Yeah, that's tough. Oh, Connor's back. What up, Connor? What up? Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird. This is one reason why I don't like doing conspiracy theory news. Yeah, ask away. This is one reason why I don't like doing conspiracy theories, because narratives are really helpful for some stuff. It's super helpful to tell a narrative about, who knows, the really difficult time that Russia had getting off the ground as far back as before World War II and then after it, right? It's crazy. That stuff had to have been super formative. You know, you have to build some of these stronger relationships. You figure out stuff that works in these hard times. And then, irregardless of how competitive you are, you know, someone like Slavoj Zizek again says, well, Russia was largely defined by this stuff. That's a useful story. It's not that useful to say, well, you know, I actually don't know if Israel, and if it is the case that Israel and the UK are actually nuclear triad companies, if they have a secret program, right? That's not a story. There might be a story, but it's going to be one of those stories that is working as hard as possible to not be like that, to be like reality. So, do any of you guys know predictive history? Connor mentioned The Simpsons and predictions. So, but yeah, predictive history is a cool channel. If you guys like this stuff, there's people that have been more active and know more than I do. Predictive history, Professor Sunday are just two of those. So shout out to those guys always. James, yeah, I can argue liberalism. I'm trying to set up a debate on Breakfast Tacos channel right now for liberalism versus Marxism. I would be on the liberal side. I'm also a normal human being. I have a blue hat. I have a blue shirt on. So yeah, Miraj, ask away. I'm scanning chat. So if you ask a question, I can pin it up on screen. Just like Al Capone's here. Al Capone, no problem though. We got the Godfather here. Question tucked in or out. To the left. I don't know. How many dimensions is it supposed to be? I made it to Oklahoma City. LOL, walking most of the day. I'm behind a church. They have free Wi-Fi, so I'm doing okay. Cool. Yeah, well, good luck. Yeah, in Phoenix around this time of year, there's a lot of like heat shelters and stuff. In set up at churches and stuff like that because it's so hot outside. I don't have a religion. Yeah, I'm an atheist. So I was raised Roman Catholic. So yeah. So who knows? Who knows what my I don't know what my religion is. I don't know. So I'm an atheist. I know that much. 11 dimensions. Whoa. Why not 2, brother? You love Islam, brother. Cool. Can you recite the Shahada for me? If you want to recite the Shahada with believer, then that's very cool. That's very cool. I've been to Dawah channels. I tell everybody this. Everybody's heard. I'll go do some Dawah. I'd rather start getting into like Marxist and ideology debates, or I don't know. Atheism means you believe in nothing, correct? Yeah, without a God, so my worldview just doesn't have a God in it. Without a God, so it would be difficult for me to understand where a claim about God comes from. And if you were to ask me about my beliefs or how I explain something, what I believe that explains in the first place, water comes out of my faucet because of like water pressure or something, whatever it is, and it's stable, and that's explained by the diameter of the pipe and how it's hooked up or something, right? It's how much water goes in one side and sort of consistency. That only to me explains about the water in the pipes. Like I don't think you don't have to have more explanation or can't, but where do you derive your moral compass without God? Yeah, no bones about it. Just a moral position, maybe a meta-ethical discussion. Seems like it's not objective, but I could say something common like, I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church, so to me, seeing people at soup kitchens was super valuable. Yeah, I volunteered at clothing banks and stuff when I was a kid. So to me, social justice, justice for the poor, treating people with dignity, treating people the same, treating people as moral ends, that stuff's all important. You can disagree. I'm not talking about the Bible or anything. I'm just talking about stuff I went out to go do. But I can also say something like, there's tons of patterns in human history about violence and success and flourishing and our impact on the planet. And so all my assertions come from those things. They all come from those things. So, okay. Why do you keep saying you grew up in the Catholic Church? Because I did. Blackness. I will say patience. Shy Sox edits. Yeah, cheers to Chicago. I've got Sox and Cubs fans on both sides of the family. 1 and 1, so. Without moral absoluteness, why not do whatever you want whenever you want? We're just primal sludge, stardust. That's very cool. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought... if you want me to explain using a star why I have a moral judgment, I don't think it's normal for most stars to explode, form heavy elements, form enough carbon to make up a planet like Earth, and then you also have complex brains and stuff operating. So that story is already different. If you explain it using a star, you have to take that explanation seriously still. So, yeah, I was an altar server. Cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I did that. Whatever it's called. Yeah, I would do some of the big masses and stuff like that. My mom worked for our church for a little bit. She ran the youth program for a couple years. So I was pretty involved when I was Catholic. I think I was a nice person. I was a good Catholic. I wasn't maybe as studious or devout as some people, but I was a good Catholic. I was a better Catholic than some without that sort of devoutness. Quantum stuff in chat, guys. Whoa, blowing my mind. Quantum is now getting to the point where it can access information across the dimensional devices and work out extremely complex equations faster than is possible with any one singular dimension. In fact, yeah. Oh, quantum computing and stuff too. And yeah, if you view the universe like some sort of structure system, you can do that. You don't have to. There's reasons or evidence on either side of it. It's hard to say. Yeah, quantum morality. That's like a heavy lift in my view. It's like, why do you need that? But so, you believe in history? Yeah, history's cool. Hegel's cool. Karl Marx was interesting as well, and he was very much about empiricism. He talked about our sense data in a philosophical sense, and he basically says, well, if you're observing the same world I am, eventually you study capitalism and society, and you see that the two become the one, right? You have this force of markets, which was in 1850 or whatever year it was. It was never supposed to be all of society. I think Karl Marx is wrong about some or most of that, but he's a cool philosopher for sure. Very honest, very good to read. The Communist Manifesto is a great example of ideology, that word. So, ideology usually tells you what's wrong with the world. It tells you how to fix it. It tells you why that problem emerged. It tells you usually who's wrong, who's in the wrong, good guys, bad guys, and it tells you what the world's like afterwards most of the time. And the Communist Manifesto does all those things. You believe in science and history? Yep, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, science. Yeah. I'm a little more. I'm not. There's people way more scientific than me on YouTube, right? There's people that know science a lot better than me. I think I'm pretty good at understanding naturalism. If I had to say, I don't know if you guys know the difference, but naturalism just says everything in the universe, everything that's real, all of reality is from a natural world. So it's all, if you're empirically studying one thing, it means you can study the rest of the universe that same exact way. It doesn't really change. And so, like a biochemist believes in science and has opinions and knows more about science than I do. But I can still talk about that idea in like a naturalistic way. Skimmed that question. You say you grew up in the Catholic and lend credibility to your atheism is an appeal to authority. Yeah, Skating Poof, you want to sort of clarify some of that. So I think so if you can imagine two different sort of screens, one is where, I'm Catholic, one is where I'm Duck. Nathan Swift, please like and subscribe. Of course, we're growing together. We're going to grow together, boys. So if I never really had deeply held faith or belief in things that contradict reality, I'm not saying that that's because of Catholicism. I'm actually saying the opposite. So if you hope, that's what I would prefer to respond to, is that, my claim is that, Catholics do a lot for morality. I'll even disagree with some atheists. I'll say Catholic morality is about social justice, talks about, being upstanding, being involved in community, this kind of stuff. So that's fine. But then you start telling me all this other stuff, and when the weird stuff creeps in, I don't have a way to talk about it. So, but the other side too, just to stand up for Scathing Pooh's comment, and I'll pin this up, or it's already pinned up if you guys see that comment, is it would be very silly. Like, sure, someone was an alcoholic and they went to AA and became a Christian, and they said, so my problem is solved because I became a Christian. Okay, well, let's talk about that story. We can talk about it. Maybe that doesn't make sense to me entirely, or makes you more or less credible, or in what way it's more or less credible. But the other side is maybe someone can say, yeah, I was brainwashed in a small evangelical, basement church when I was a kid. That's not that uncommon of a story. There's very cult-like churches everywhere. So, you saying all of these are an appeal to authority is actually, when you put everything in the box, I don't know. Who made the stars? Carbon, space, and time and matter? Yeah. Yeah, I think all that stuff. That's kind of sometimes called fine-tuning principle. You can think of fine-tuning, the way I would just introduce it is fine-tuning is both about seeing complex things like stars and stuff, but it's also just about seeing such a stable, like a really, really nice particle zoo, a really good collection of fundamental particles and quarks. And so when you ask why we have the different atoms, and those are made up of those fundamental particles, and they, it's kind of like if you put manure on just dirt, you're going to have grass at some point, right? If you have like a fertilizer, if you have a good soil, at some point something's going to grow. So if you have a big soup or general mix of particles, you're going to get stars and galaxies too. Yeah, cool. Yeah, James, it would be good to see you again. I don't know if you took off. Quantum teleportation. Yeah, that's cool. That'd be cool. Big stuff and small stuff. You are a Marxist. Isn't Marxist the same as communism? Dude, you need to wake up. Yeah, if someone's a Marxist in chat, let me know. It's cool. I'm trying to set up a Marxism debate sometime soon. That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. In past events, how can anyone deny history or not believe in it? Some homeschooled idiocracy crap. Yeah, the thing that the really brainy, Harvard physicists say is that, well, if I look at a particle this second and last second, I'm actually looking at, one or two of the same equations that exist at the same time. Both of those systems seem to come together. And so I don't actually have a timeline where one is better than the other or one is different than the other. Ideology is a perspective. Darn straight, Spider-Man. Darn straight it is. Yeah, having a perspective is very important. Sometimes it can be dangerous. Who knows? Most of us, my intuition is always that if I heard someone on YouTube yelling about being a Marxist, a black shirt for Mussolini, I would think that's a bad perspective to have. You're not treating people as moral ends. It seems like you're doing something out of fear or self-interest. But having a perspective is also how people did new things. Some people did new things without doing great things. So if you're an atheist and believe in science and history, then you have to submit that Jesus Christ was a walking, living human that did many miracles and has been documented in more places than just the Bible. Yep. So, I would, if someone claims to have, a belief or knowledge of Jesus Christ, I don't see a great reason to not grant that. If we were having a history debate, I'm sure it would be a different discussion. But for not purposes of debating history and whatever historians are supposed to say, yeah, sure. That's cool. We can fight about it sometime. We can fight or argue or debate it, but we don't have to. Scientific method applies to all sciences. Bible doesn't pass that. Do you believe in existentialism? Yeah, it's kind of hard not to be an existentialist. It's kind of hard not to be an existentialist. Hey, DVS Dave, good to see you. Yeah, at least a little bit. Yeah, at least a little bit. I don't think our whole brain is designed to, like when you hear a beautiful song or something, right? It sounds so meaningful. I've been to the Louvre in Paris. I'm one of those kind of douchebag Americans that very lucky I got to travel to Europe once. That was a cool trip. And so I saw the Mona Lisa. I saw all the stuff that people have been doing. And so that stuff's cool. It's hard to explain it. Even a simple piece of music is hard to explain, even if you know all the notes. I don't think the way we experience that, and maybe the totality of what can be said is is about creating knowledge. And it also seems undermining to say that, even if I'm a really hard physicalist, even if I'm really hard into like neuroscience and neuropsychology, that kind of stuff, it seems really weird to say, well, I hear a song and yeah, at the end of the day, the most I can say about it is exactly what's happening in my brain. There's nothing complex or there's no philosophical problem with that. And so I would say I'm existentialist about more ordinary things. I don't see a need for it. I don't see a need for existentialism. If you're telling me the speed of light or you're telling me the speed of a Corvette, I think like that level of existentialism is a little silly to me as well. That might be a mental defect. DVS, we were talking a little bit about like some security, geopolitics stuff. If you have a topic or a question you want me to, I can just talk about something, or if you have a topic or something. But yeah, just feel free to kind of say whatever. It's YouTube. We're on mobile, so just hanging out or whatever. Hemp we turn into worm food. Yeah, good plants. Being good to plants and having good plants, and like that seems good. Okay, that's common moral sense. When one opens one mind and perspective to the omniverse, it includes them. Even greater amount of information, a much greater point of view becomes possible on everything. Cool. All right. Galib Alyssa says, I don't know why that got blocked. Galib Alyssa, if you're still here, I'm so sorry. Your comment got blocked, but yeah, I am an atheist. I'm sorry to say that. Relief from problems don't add credibility. Rather, we seek truth. So saying you were Catholic strips you of credibility. Okay. Okay, cool. The universe may be eternal. No one knows. Yeah, all vibrational energy. That's a fair point. But what does it do? What does it do, though? How do you know? How do you know you picked the right lever? It seems there's right levers. There are trebuchets. How often do you guys think about trebuchets? I don't think about trebuchets that often, actually. It turns out I don't think about them that often, and sometimes that has been the right answer. So I can believe in trebuchets because they obviously existed. So you're saying homeschool idiocy is crap. I didn't say anything about homeschooling. Yeah, I think public education gives people a well-rounded education. Obviously, it's always a parent's choice. As far as I'm aware, there's not a place in the US where there's like no school with a good gifted program or no school with good activities, but there's also some schools who don't have that stuff. They don't have resources. And so if someone wants to overcome that by doing homeschooling, cool. If someone has a different reason for it, go for it. Go for it. But I don't think that means you get to, because you homeschool, you get to say everything about my family now. Don't fill gaps of knowledge with a god and delusions. Can you shout out my friend? HJ, Fluoride Fountain wants me to say what's up. So no offense, but yeah, Janus, good to see you. Hugh JJ, good to see you. Good point, TVS Dave. Scathing light. Okay, cool. Scathing poo. Yeah, if you guys, yeah, there's lots of debate channels. I don't dislike debating. I like, okay, so I'll be honest, I like when people actually prepare for a debate. It's a waste of the audience's time. It is a waste of my time. It is a waste of your time. If people, whatever, if people just want to dunk around or whatever, but have Google open or something. Have Google open. I don't know. If anyone wants to argue scathing poo, You can feel free or don't. Why history being taught at home is crap. History being taught at home isn't bad. It's not crap. History being taught at home would just be another subject they teach at homeschools. It'd be part of the homeschooling curriculum. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, if I had to, I don't know. I've done a debate on homeschooling before. Some guy said that he has the right to indoctrinate his kids. That was his argument against public schools and against tax credits. He says, I have a right to indoctrinate my kids. So, I mean, people can say that, but 99% of what that entails is illegal. You're not allowed to do something if it's, whatever. So, yeah, the Schrodinger equation is also used to find electrons in atoms. So, yeah, I'd be going up a weight class if we did jujitsu. You'd probably beat me because I don't know that. The universe can't just create itself either. Believing in God or the other stuff our minds can't comprehend when the universe came from. Yeah, the universe can't just create itself either. Believing in the God or the other stuff our minds just can't comprehend where the universe came from. Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of threads to pull on. But it's also kind of absurd. It's kind of a paradox because if you're doing mathematical physics, what you have to look at is the math. And so where there isn't actually math to observe, there's no universe. And so there's not actually a problem. And if you ask, you're so curious where it came from, well, that's kind of too bad, right? That's one acceptable answer from physics is that, I know the math that I'm allowed to know, and so I know physics. And that's it. So I can claim to have knowledge about that. It can be testable sometimes. Other people can look at the same thing. Being a military brat, I got to spend 8 years in Europe. It was amazing. Cool. Yeah, that's very cool. That's cool. I'm going to Italy and Greece in a couple years. I don't know. If someone's upset about me being an atheist, me saying sorry doesn't change anything. So, what kind of movies do you enjoy? I like stupid action movies. Stupid action movies are fun. I used to like comedies. If you guys like comedies, let me know in chat. That was my favorite. I like Anchorman. Anchorman was a really funny movie, I thought. I had fun watching that one. What else? Let's see. Yeah, I like crime movies. I like mobster movies. I liked a lot of the Marvel movies. I like Batman. Batman was a cool movie. Batman was a good one. It was I thought the new Batmans were better. Obviously, good filmmaking. I liked the Harry Potter movies. Those were all good too. Those were all good. So energy cannot be created nor destroyed. That's actually something that cannot be created from nothing. And if that's the case, scientific evidence, it would submit that there is a higher being. Okay, cool. That's one way to do it is axiomatically. That's like what big YouTuber. Couple. William Lane Craig. He's a actual professional philosopher. He talks about that stuff. Yeah, there's other people in different analytic and continental traditions that do philosophy that way. So that's cool. Yeah, DVS Dave, we could launch 30 to 40 boulders 200 plus yards away. Psh, why not? Yeah, trebuchets are the best. Trebuchets are very cool. If you guys have your favorite trebuchet meme, do please feel free to like and subscribe, of course, first. But also post your favorite trebuchet meme. If the image upload doesn't work on YouTube, the best way to actually go for it and do it is to what's it called? Is to just type the text out and I'll read your trebuchet meme. But no offense, do like and subscribe too. Apparently the YouTube algorithm loves trebuchets as well, guys. So please smash that like button. Let's get this content up. I know I said kind of crassly, can you bomb like, but just in the poll, when you guys open the chat, if you guys see the poll, go ahead and vote. I don't mean bomb, but I mean like, can you trebuchet the like button? Like totally gnar, man. Oh yeah. A lot of public school teach crappy agendas now. All right, guys, we're gonna have to do some like PC content on education. I don't know, maybe not now, maybe some other time. I'm reading all these comments, right? I'll remember all of these. So I'm not saying you guys are wrong for what you think. I just think there's other things that like a teacher or a parent would know. So let's see, Rick Shaw. Hello there to you as well, Rick Shaw. Good to see you. What wavelength of life and frequency would you say is your favorite on or beyond the visible light spectrum? I don't know, probably gamma rays and X-rays. X-rays are pretty cool. Gamma rays, I think, are the coolest though. They're really scary, right? You could have a gamma ray burst that literally like gives you cancer. Space is, the probability of that happening is very low, especially in like a human lifetime in a significant way, but gamma rays are probably the sickest of the sick. What are the slower? There's slower frequencies too, I think. Yeah, it's crazy. So I've been doing some research on like audio and like mics and stuff, stupid stuff, but like your voice is a frequency too. And so like the lower end of like the human voice spectrum, some of the cycles or the sounds that a human can make, like those Mongolian throat singer guys, some of those wavelengths can take like 15, 20 feet to complete, right? There's a lot of those things, we hear the sounds, but we don't know how much actual complexity, even in that small phenomenon. So this isn't for everyone, right? This is like the education thing, but just from my own experience, if you guys are interested in science, physics, some kind of topic, those little topics can be actually pretty huge, right? It's not just sound waves. It doesn't have to be though. I had a vid of ours, but I don't have access to that Gmail account. Cool. Cool. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Very nifty. So can you explain the flash of light at conception that science wasn't able to prove until recently, but the Bible described it in detail? I wouldn't know what you're talking about. There's, cosmology is changing, especially with the advent of better computers, better computing models, more people trained in the field. It's just hard. You're throwing a lot of horsepower at that stuff, and things that we would imagine maybe like the leading thinker in the field were able to do 30 years ago. Yeah, it's still important to like not really say somebody's better than someone else and stuff like that, but yeah, that's all this is. Yo, gotta go, guys. It's 2:50 a.m. here. Ampersand. This phenomenon is caused by the release of zinc ions from the egg as it activates and begins a process of embryonic development. Oh, at that conception. All right, I'll add that to my Google list. I've got Ruto from yesterday on my Google list. What else? Somebody was saying Mexico City riots on my Google list. And apparently I have to look up vibrational flashes of light energy at conception. So we'll try and figure all of that stuff out. Nar, man. Thanks, dude. Thanks, dude. Shredding the gnar on it, man. Yeah, I saw some, I forgot what his name is. I was gonna maybe repost it in a post or something. I saw there was a Gaza, some guy living in Gaza doing a fitness routine. He's eating about 1,000 calories a day. So that was pretty crazy to see. Totally bombed out and all this other stuff. But yeah, he was a content creator before the war. That's what he was gonna do anyways. You know, they've got these little like car battery, sort of like kind of nicer batteries, but still like, it's not outlets, right? They've got these charging areas for cell phones, people charging 30 cents to charge a phone. So that was kind of crazy to see. He was making some grape leaves with rice and some lentils. Lentils are good food. I don't think anyone would ever say lentils are bad food. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe if you spend enough time in McWorld, right? In McWorld, in McDonald's universe, you would say, I can't have lentils anymore. It would take quite a bit, though. I like lentils quite a bit. I love lentils. Love waking up to them. Love waking up to them, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's been cool, chillin' duck. Gonna sub and look forward to the next stream. Cool. Yeah, it'll be good to see you. It will be good to see you. How did the Bible know 2,000 years ago that a flashlight at conception? Yeah, Michael O'Hare says, go to festival, they charge a bomb. Yeah, that sounds, yeah. That's not going to be part of a peace accord. Yes, it will be. Not really. How much time are you going to spend on that? How much money? What are you actually doing? Yeah, I don't know what else to say, right? Who knows? Yeah, I think it's an injustice that people ignored that Hamas basically waged like the quietest, least publicized civil war, 20 years ago, nearly 20 years ago. Hamas was elected in as much as, they, without as much constitutional cords as they should have had, without as much transparency and stuff, kind of took over. But then you look at Israel and you have pro-war, pro-defense cabinet members. You've got all these like super national security court reforms and stuff like that. So have you been doing better staying mentally stable? Yeah, I feel good. Yeah, I feel very good. Super nice. My vagus nerve is happy and healthy. Yeah, I took today off from running, so that's always nice. Having a little bit of rest is good. What else? Yeah, being able to take a nap at some point during the day, right? I'd rather have a job. I'd rather have the income and be working. But if I can, again, take a nap during the day, or if I can, instead of taking a nap, if I can, have something to do, right? Somebody's streaming, I can support them. Yo, peace, Sizzle Moon. Peace. Well, Ducky, it's been a fun night. Peace to you too. Yeah, so, what would I say? Yeah, but check out that Gaza guy. I'll try and look up his name or something. That was kind of cool. There's one other guy trying to get out of Gaza. He's in Gaza. He's saying, yeah, if you guys know any like lawyer groups or whoever it is, if you have any way to support someone out, I think him and his little brother they're both making content and stuff too. So yeah, normal person stories. Not very normal, but normal person stories, that's for sure. You have a really dark joke about chickpeas? Oh my gosh, let's hear it. Let's hear it then. The other day, somebody asked what the difference between garbanzo beans and a soybean was. I didn't know. It wasn't a joke either. I think they were actually asking. I eat both, but the same thing, I thought. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I still have all these bullshit show notes from the other day, all the political science jargon. I do just want everyone to agree that it's a good time to stop fighting and that people can agree to do that. Whatever. Whatever. We all pushing forward together. Nobody pays a chick to have a chick lentil on them. Oh, ha ha ha. Very funny, you guys. Very funny, you guys. Very funny, you guys. Yeah, that's very funny. It's very funny. Too much information to remember. Lots of information to remember too. Yeah. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. Somebody will find a good way to do it, though. Somebody will find a good way to remember. Good way to do it. Anybody has questions? All that kind of crap. All that kind of crap. But yeah, that was the main point of the stream. Was, like I said in the title, talking. I really wanted to talk about nuclear triads. I think it's a fun and interesting topic. I think deterrence theory is so fascinating. Maybe this is me being too optimistic, but get slapped around today. Did you watch Andrew Wilson get slapped around today by a Raging Tomato panel? Oh yeah, I saw. I was there for a little bit of that. Yeah, I saw Sarah saying, it's the roast Andrew hour. So that's cool. Andrew was being a good sport about it. So yeah, cool. Yeah, I like Sarah's cool. Yeah. If anybody likes doing live appearances and stuff like that, you should go subscribe to The Raging Tomato. Very simple, The Raging Tomato. I'm not here to promote other channels. I'm not here to try and whatever. I'll tell you guys what I'm doing myself on YouTube if somebody asks. But yeah, making good content now or whenever, whatever. Raging Tomato, she's developed a great channel. Yeah, so whatever. But what was I saying about nuclear weapons? Yeah, we were talking about, they're not that scary. This is one of those things about tackling really big problems. So what mutually assured destruction essentially says is that there's no amount of complexity that can ever develop to be strategic. That as you develop complexity, you have an equal amount of risk or the probability of things happening approaching one, right? So I hurt you, you hurt me. If you hurt me this way, I will hurt you this way. If you hurt me like this, then I will reciprocate, right? And so a way of stating it computationally is that there isn't some highest point. You can even talk about space defense programs. You can talk about really advanced, super clandestine, like subversion and cyber and signals and intercept, and talk about next generation AI and machine learning and direct energy and all this other stuff. And no amount of complexity will ever reduce the risk that any nuclear war is destructive. It's the end of it. It's the last decision you make as a nation state. Perhaps the last decision anyone makes as a nation state. So, but yeah, and so for people trying to understand why everyone doesn't have a nuclear triad, why it may be the case you're allowed to even compete on that level, and whether it's a bargaining chip or however you come to some, the point is when you climb that mountain, there's more possibilities, maybe both for aggression as well as opportunity. That's my perspective. Some people don't see it that way, but if you had to choose, would you rather watch a tree grow or watching a tree grow? Sure. Can I help? Yes. Oh, har, har, har. Very funny name. All that stuff, too. Eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I love that one. I know that one, too. I know that one. What else? Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's security discussions about, yeah, absolutely having a modern functional nuclear arsenal and stuff. And just kind of what's going on around Ukraine, how the EU securitizes, right? Um, and then you're also going to have people in the security community, right? This is like Conor McGregor telling you, well, it's actually better if I go in with a broken leg to some extent. What does that actually get you right now and later? Um, like people are allowed to talk that way and actually think through completion with those types of questions. Yeah, it would it would make very little sense to not include in that conversation the fact that there's banned weapons that are not nuclear weapons, right? If you dropped mass incendiary devices on like a city or something, right? Really horrible security stuff, but this type of hypothetical for people really interested in this stuff. Stronger countries can have nuclear power even if the UN said so because it can't say no to strong countries. Yeah, yeah, nuclear power. Yeah, nuclear power and nuclear power programs and systems. That's sort of the neoliberalism component. That's the neoliberalism component. Is people always wonder what's the system that we look at, right? Some people say that well, aggression is predicted or it's not unexpected because we just didn't do a good enough job on trade or figuring out tariffs, figuring out trade, figuring out all this kind of stuff. And so you're gonna get conflicts because of systems. And so I don't mean to be misinterpreting that. If you have if I'm missing something in that, it's not obviously just neoliberalism looking at systems and stuff like that. But yeah, there all kinds of stuff, right? All kinds of stuff, all kinds of good stuff, as it turns out. All kinds of good stuff and fun stuff to do together. Yeah. Imperialism will always exist because nations are controlled by politicians, and politicians are people who strive to get power in the nation and other nations by controlling their economy or military. Donald Scudder, who cares? Let's talk about the Democrats trying to... Okay, cool. Hey, Donald, good to see you. If you want to say something that's not against TOS, happy to have a conversation. Yeah, politicians control a nation for better or worse. And yeah, in some sense, seeing that complexity has to exist in inefficient or less preferable processes. Like that's a very diplomatic way to say that war or imperialism is going to happen. War or imperialism is going to happen. And in imperialism, you just assume that is the way that's how the U.S. would work, right? That's how the U.S. works, is that, you just assume the system and processes are going to ultimately result in some sort of problem or outcome or something. So, I don't totally understand power, though, to be completely honest. The concept of power is very odd. I don't know. Other nations. What do you guys want to do? I don't know. I'm bored. Do you guys want to hang out? What do you guys want to do? I think power is mostly money or overall influence. Yeah. Power is mostly money or overall influence. Yeah. So, if power itself is money, we would assume that liberal capitalism has already succeeded. We would assume liberal capitalism has succeeded and done so in such a way that it's capable of managing really complex strategic sort of outlays, or overall influence. And if power is overall influence, then in some sense it's talking about sort of the same or different sort of strategy. It's going to signify itself slightly differently, right? If we're talking about power projection as influence is really just saying that, well, we do what we can do, and the best case scenario for you is we do it when we have to. That's what the powerful would say. The worst case scenario is we do it when we can. And if the two are the same, we do it when we have to and therefore we can, that's also problematic. And so, most people would imagine that without having that diplomatic mindset to begin with, there's not a lot to talk about. It's difficult. On the other side, if there is something to talk about, then, or if you decide that the conversation is worth having, then that also ends up making a ton of sense. That's nuclear deterrence in a nutshell too. Not the strategic sort of tactical sense of having a balance of nuclear powers and traditional sort of kinetic and diplomatic outlets, but the outlet of having common ground where it makes more sense to engage in diplomacy in the first place. That's why it's always really troubling to see both media and news coming from a place like the Ukraine. When we see the videos of people blowing stuff up, when we know the who, what's, when, where, whys, when we know that the geopolitical outlay has been a number of willing participants participating in this, and it doesn't make sense to isolate the most worst, the least favored nation. The least favored nation isn't a helpful approach. Yes. When that happens, it's who knows why, when, where, how, what, whatever it was, but or whyever it is. But yeah, nuclear deterrence in that other sense is it's also, to me, that ability to understand to have information, right? Information parity about some things versus information dominance. I don't know why this wasn't discussed in the first place. Maybe this is the wrong way to do it, right? This is one of those sort of smaller twisting motions you pick up as time goes on. But yeah, instead of everyone having, always on DEFCON 5, understanding that part of the tension that's going to exist through a commitment to a peace process in any state is having information parity about the things that anyone's going to argue and fight about at that time, right? If it's not risky to silo the processes, why wouldn't you silo those processes then? Why wouldn't you get in front of a table and have a 15-minute conversation to hash this stuff out? It doesn't make that much sense to me. And so if you want to not have a boogeyman or blame someone for this type of bad stuff, and feel free to let me know if you're in chat. Anyone, did I swallow a walkie-talkie? Walkie-talkies. Nope, I didn't swallow a walkie-talkie. Pythagorean additions. Let's go, baby. Let's go, Pythagoras. I know the sides of this tomato and all this other stuff. I know the sides of this triangle, not a tomato triangle. I had vegan chicken with tomato and jalapeno yesterday. That's what I was tripping on. I thought all that stuff was really good. I loved it. The first time I saw it, it was so good. And so, yeah, if you guys have any walkie-talkies I can swallow, I'm happy to do that. But this is why nuclear triads are interesting as well. Because you know that the there's a very long funding mechanism and a very large trail of what operational security and just normal business as usual looks like for any even small nuclear program. So it's very cool. It's an opportunity for us to imagine that there's 4 nations with awesome nuclear triads. They're sick. They're very awesome. They're very cool, as it turns out. You speak about food, then nuclear triangle. Yeah, because I love eating. I love tomatoes. I love jalapenos. I love chicken made out of pea protein. That stuff is all freaking tasty and delicious for me. And so, yeah, when people crack the whip on stuff in geopolitics, you have doomers, right? Doomers is the internet speak. I don't totally understand what it means or how someone decides something about a doomer, or how do you discuss something with a doomer. I know that's what I look like. I've got blue eyes, but I've got normal blue eyes. I have a normal face, but when they get a little dark sometimes, they can get a little dark. I don't mean to be a doomer, though. I don't truly mean to be a doomer about any of this stuff. Hell yeah. Yeah, and so that's crazy because even, I don't know, it looks like your name is in Arabic. People relate to different, even the agriculture that is at the base of a country that has a nuclear triad. That's always viewed differently in different societies. How societies view it as justifiable, or even creating justice to have a large dominant military in the first place. What is it actually for? Why shouldn't we expect, for no reason or for a reason of wealth and money alone, do we avoid going to war? We should believe that that's true, right? We should believe that that's true. So, and that's why, when I would, just to get back to Ukraine, a doomer, I don't actually know. I think you'd have to Google it. It's like a classification of a person with a bad attitude, a pessimist. Chat people, I'm not telling you guys you have to chat or whatever, but if you guys have a better definition of a doomer, okay, what is the topic you're discussing? Ukraine. So Ukraine. It's whatever. It's YouTube mobile, so we just talk about whatever. Don't sweat, bro. Stay on the nuke subject. Very interesting. Yeah. And so for a country like Ukraine, where you're bordering a country with a lot of borders, who's got a really great nuclear program, great military, all stuff very enviable, right? Russia has a very enviable state security structure. And when you figure out how and why and when everyone can act and talk like that and not be facetious, what is there to be, And so, you see the escalation of these strikes, and it's difficult to imagine that there isn't something either already broken or there's something not being referenced that's already worked really well. And why don't I also have that problem, right? Why don't I also have that problem or that commonality? Why don't I also have the problem or the commonality? And what do you get? What do you get when you actually have leaders in a room? What's his name? Larislav or whatever. You actually have leaders of different countries who are able to talk about, putting pen to paper, signing something, committing to stuff, committing to a different way to start viewing things and talking about things and committing to things and figuring out how different countries strategically have to prioritize everything that they do, everything that we do and everything that we do, which is crazy. I don't mean to be that sort of standoffish, hoggish, whatever. But let's have an honest talk, though. We should be a little mad about leaders like Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu who have promoted this form of nationalism that prevents us from actually talking about the more granular details that boil up into something people love doing and love talking about. Whose vision is this? Whose vision is it for people to not recognize that there's more opportunity than costs in the world? isn't that ultimately the core theory behind nuclear weapons? If you have a non-zero probability that there's not a war tomorrow, and thank goodness the world isn't like that, right? Nuclear weapons, if you do security studies, are not that scary. If you're a political scientist, geopolitics, just putting you in the room, how maybe like serious casuals on the internet talk about stuff, people with some domain knowledge or whatever, not a lot, but a little bit. These are all based on energetic systems that are working to not do anything except just be that. They're working to not do anything other than what they're supposed to be doing. So it's always amazing. It's so easy to find. It's so easy to find the problem that you need to solve if you are talking in the first place about finding the problem that you need to solve. Who would have thought it? Who would have thunk it? Who would have committed to it? It's crazy. Amber Zand says, no bones about it. Humans drive our... Conflating the two is juvenile. Yeah. Yeah, I think philosophical, I don't mean to jump into middle of a conversation or whatever, but yeah, I absolutely agree that a philosophical foundation for ethics and metaethics is perfectly good. I've been on a kick about metaethics recently. I don't know why. If anyone's ever had just, those weeks, months, days, whatever it is, where the topic seems to come up, it's like, yeah, we should be able to take simple and more complicated moral problems and sort of reason through them, think through them, think what sort of tools are at our disposal to create a better outcome. And an idea of divinity is distinct. Yeah, unless you're doing divine command theory, of course. Most people know that. I'm 35. 35. I've eaten a lot of cheeseburgers in my lifetime. A lot. I'm a vegan now. I'm 35 years old. And what you see is what you get with Duck. I like doing normie and non-normie hour. I like talking to smart people. And there's doggos. People like doggos. I studied philosophy. I studied political theory a lot. I studied a lot of political theory. You can go get some. And political science. Godhead. I love the word Godhead. With morality is juvenile. Philosophy and ethics is foremost the predecessor of any theology and is stronger than turning tides of religion. Yeah, run hog wild, right? Run hog wild, right? That's good advice too, even for atheists like myself, is that if you got capture cards on kind of the moral problem you're trying to solve or something, it's like, okay, cool. Go get some, right? If somebody knows what you're actually trying to get after, and so like talk about what divine command would actually say. Talk about what the reference text and stuff in divine command actually then have to say, and then figure out in the first place how you're asking the question using divine command and divinity. If that's the route you want to go, then absolutely you can go for it, right? Absolutely go for it, or whatever. And if you don't have a good reference text, or you don't have something about how you visualize the ontology of God, you don't know the psychologies and stuff that are at play, and how the sort of evolutionary drive actually applies in divine command theory, if it doesn't matter. If it's absurd, it's absurd. If it's not, it's not. And yeah, very cool. Vegan isn't healthy. Yeah, vegan isn't healthy. I know. I don't agree. I don't agree totally, right? I don't agree totally. And the reason this is because It takes 4 to 5 years to. It took 4 or 5 years for me to get into a stable vegan diet. Less than that, like I would say 2 years. 2 years where I didn't regularly think about getting like crap food. Even as a vegan, you can eat a lot of crap food. I ate vegan chicken yesterday. Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. So I think it's easier to be less reactive with the vegan diet. Yeah, a lot of people end up agreeing about that too. So a lot of people do. That's almost an oxymoron. Yeah, if I was Seventh-day Adventist, for sure. Yeah, if I was puritanical. Oh yeah. Have you guys seen that movie K-Pac with what's his name? Kevin Spacey. He's just looking up. He's just looking up like that. That's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Okay. John Wida says, according to Bucharest Bucharest memorandum, right? Okay. I'm listening to this now because I don't know this. I don't know a lot about Bucharest. This is Romania, right? Bucharest memorandum. The U.S. should protect the Ukraine from Russia. Okay, K-Pax is tight. LOL, love that film. Yeah, the aesthetics, the cinematography, and all that stuff. That stuff's dope. Yeah. So according to the Bucharest memorandum, the USA should protect Ukraine to Russia. Yeah, this does it for me, right? This does it for me is that, you have NATO, kind of NATO and European countries talking about, they don't want to see, the influence of this former Soviet state, right? It kind of sucks to say, but, and yeah, absolutely, and then you also have long periods of time of Russia being treated as a sovereign power with those types of responses. And so at some point you just get a spike that doesn't look like it is that type of response. So this does it for me. This is one of those things that, yeah, yeah, I don't know how much political truth can be had once you're in the actual situation, that praxis, reality, creating reality. History, action, creating reality. Thank you for whoever sent me the Sesame Street message. You got flagged by the auto moderator. But yeah, absolutely that one too. Your appearance is a divergence. Yeah, and you is a divergence. Ignore the superficial stuff. Thank you, Stephen Winston. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. That's very nice. Thank you everyone for joining here tonight, and yeah, I hope your week's going well. Yeah, hope the week's going good. Hope it's nice. I've been looking up mic reviews because I'm on YouTube, and I've seen so many windscreens that like they're supposed to block those types of sounds and stuff like that. We've got like all kinds of pop filters and all this other stuff. All kinds of stuff. I love it. My favorite film aesthetic. Favorite film aesthetic was probably Harry Potter when Guillermo del Toro took over directing. Very dark, still kind of had that bright, inviting stuff. I'm 35, so when those movies came out, it was like, oh, these were the books I loved as a kid. When those movies came out, I got to go watch those movies for a couple years in movie theaters. Yeah, all that kind of stuff was really good. And yeah. So those were cool. And then I liked CIA shows and movies too. My ethnic background, I don't know, white guy from wherever, Chicago, the Midwest. Um, my family's all from the Midwest. I'm a Southern boy. I'm from Arizona. Me, myself, and I. Right. If we entertain the idea of divine command, we. Those facilities are part of our brain, like a frontal and prefrontal cortices, the occipital and temporal lobes, Broca's and Wernicke's area, etc. Reason to those suppositions of command. Yeah, that's cool. I like that you're getting into the sort of epiphenomenal neuroscience versus the psychology of stuff. It's very cool. I appreciate that. How's the Hep C treatment going? Good, Josh. Yeah. Out of prison, so that's happy. You dopey, yeah. You like the dope hat? I got a couple dope hats, brother. Hey, brother. I got a couple dope hats. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I think the long stretch, epiphenomenal, love it. Yeah. The sort of long stretch is when people talk about things like social organization and oh, you're in Buckeye? Cool. Yeah. I just subscribed to like ABC 15 and all the Arizona news channels. It's so weird seeing all the crime stories. It's trippy as hell. That's for sure. Oh, and Peter Munoz. Good to see you from Phoenix, Arizona as well. That's awesome. I'm in the East Valley. That is as specific as I'll be without doxing myself. So some of y'all a little further west than me. I'm in the true East Valley. Let's go. Cave Creek is a nice area. I've driven up that direction. Used to, when I was younger, I would go up to Sedona or Flagstaff somewhat frequently. Yeah, we don't. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think curating conversations, but it's a YouTube channel. Yeah, it's a war out here too, bro, for sure. I didn't think I said the right thing to whatever that was supposed to be. Yeah, we don't need to do that. Thank you, though. The occipital and temporal lobe, and yeah, it's cool to think about like social. To me, like some complex organization, kind of keeping what's it called, like social organization and like those sort of individual values. Like when we have to go out and using sensory data, you sound like you know more than brains and stuff than I do, but like all that kind of stuff. Oh, you're a little further right than I am. I'm not that far, MAGA and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so you'd likely more agree on that, and so respect that and works to have your channel. Yeah. No, I agree with that stuff too. I agree with that. Here. There you go. It's not a lever to come back, but you got the blue wrench. Cool. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, cool. So that's where we're at now, right? We've got 17 people here. We got people saying blatantly sort of otherizing stuff. We've got people saying harassing things. Doesn't matter towards who, towards gender. And so obviously my moderator skills are gone, but with great power and responsibility comes rules. So there we go. We fixed it, guys. Doesn't matter who you fix it with or how you fix it. I think that's how it works. Yeah, Pythagorean additions. Here, I can do that one for you. Blammo. I can go back and mine that other one too. Watch this. Blammo. Slap that like. Go ahead, like and subscribe. If you guys like geopolitics, if you guys like just having silly social dialogues, whatever it is, That stuff's all fun. That stuff's all really good. And yeah, absolutely. Uh, Abad El Raham says, I tried long hair and felt it was not tidy and reflected my activity. I was lazy. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I love my hair. I'm a little autistic, so I self-soothe. So I really make sure to kind of, I like my long hair. I don't mind if it's a little oily, if it's natural oil, right? Like obviously I'm a vegan, so I'm not rubbing chicken grease. I'm not rubbing olive oil and stuff like that in my hair. As long as I have this going on, I'm a very happy camper. I'm a very happy camper. Outwardly too, you guys can see it. I love when you guys send messages and all that stuff. What compels you to open the channel with live chat this way? I've been a nerd and troll on Discord. I think a Discordian is I think what the internet speak is. And yeah, I don't think there is it's cool. I like the sort of, IRL Twitch universe. I like Panelverse. I like watching people talk politics. I like watching people do debates. I don't think there's enough places where, I don't know, you have a neutral person who doesn't decide on being a cartoon character before the fact. I don't know. I'll pick some of that stuff up, but I'd rather at some point spend $20 or $50 on a mic and camera or whatever, and make good research content and let you guys fill me in, right? You guys can come up, and if you guys want to do cartoonish stuff, or that's how you feel about something, cool. I'll do that too sometimes, right? It's not that philosophical. So yeah, I started a channel and it happened to grow. Kaisen Shop says Free Palestine. Yeah, I was just talking about, there's a Palestinian fitness YouTuber. I saw a couple different videos that showed up in my feed today. I appreciated seeing those quite a bit. And obviously, I think the main issue is that there's still people deciding to fight. So whatever. I don't want to diagnose it. I would like peace for that entire region. How can I tell this guy at my gym is bisexual? Rickshaw, I thought you were going to say, how can I tell if this guy at my gym is hot? And the answer is if he's hot, right? As much as I know, and that is good. Well, man, I definitely respect that. Good, cool. That Duck Y, are you scared of serial killers? Don't tell people you're adding? No, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen true crime shows. I used to watch some of the interviews. I don't know. I'm 35, so I've spent a lot of time on YouTube. I'm 35 and I'm a nerd, right? I'm a dweeb daddy. So I spend enough time on YouTube. And so if you are a fan of true crime stuff, you guys can let me know. If you guys are a fan of like dash cam or body cam footage, not tonight, but we can talk about that stuff sometime. As long as you guys are being empathetic, even if someone, you guys aren't saying, like someone with like a DSM, like sociopathy or psychopathy, if you're otherizing someone, I'll try and correct that a little bit, but no problem. In the spectrum here too, we have one thing in common. Yeah, cool. Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. I like that. Do research and then let you guys fill me in. I can dig it. Cool. Oh, cool. Yeah, have a good night. And El Rahim. Yeah, if you guys want to talk religion or something like that, that's very cool too. If you guys want to talk about Judaism or Islam, if you guys want to talk about history, we can open the conversation, right? I think when we signify we're going to talk about like a YouTube content, like, oh, this person is an Arab, or this person is a Jew, or this guy's an American. Okay, cool. Let's open it up. Donut operator, I'll have to check it out. Ducks, why you have to finish inside? Oh, I don't know. News to me. News on me, right? Religion. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Ancient mythologies. Somebody was telling me today on one of my favorite Discords that he believed in Atlantis. He thought the mythology was enough to constitute knowledge. There is enough mythology in this case that it could be said that knowledge existed. I thought that was interesting, right? What does that mean by knowledge? It means you can have a conversation? No, it means knowledge. That's all it means. But what does it mean to have enough evidence of the mythology to say that Atlantis was real because of the mythology? Is that like history? What? Do I have to, like, what do I have to do for that kind of stuff? So I'm not that far out there. I told him, hey, go repost this in neuroscience, go repost this in the psychology channel, post it in the physics channel or geology channel. I don't know, whatever you think. And he said, nah, we're good here. We're good here. We can stay in religion. We can stay in philosophy. We can talk about Atlantis still. M. Freisen. Hey, John Wida. Sorry, I don't know what that means. I know Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry from the UK. Very funny comedian. Very tall guy. Very calm. Very nice voice as well. He's a very nice voice. Good dude, right? Cool guy. Jesus isn't real. It's made up fiction from 2,000 years ago. Cool. I can be friends with it. I like the Bible. Sort of, yeah. I've had a sense of peace reading the Bible before. Even though I'm an atheist. Label me an atheist. Count me down for that. Count me in. All right. Okay. All right. Oh, the phone just flickered a little bit. Yeah, probably that sounds like a pretty good story. Sounds logical. You still need quite a bit of complexity to get to single cell organisms. Yeah, RNA would be one of the most complex systems before that. Even just having a bunch of amino acids on Earth is, in the big scheme of things, even looking at like AI compared to like whatever else is in the universe, is a fairly complex thing. So yeah. I think people talk about entropy and stuff like this. That's, I don't care what the math says. That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. One of the problems where people say it's unbelievable from my perspective, naturalist perspective, scientific perspective, is, yeah, actually don't think about the Earth in terms of the genesis of life, but think about a 10 billion year period of time and space. Literally nothing happens. Nothing happens if you're looking for life in 10 billion years anywhere. Anywhere. You can go almost anywhere. If you throw a dart on the map, the universe is such a cold, boring place. And so even when you see like people say, oh, it's relatively a simple organism or it's a simple molecule, it's like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. Like not on a cosmology scale. I don't care that you have one formal system of math to describe it. You have one set of equations, you have one theory, maybe multiple theories to describe it. Like, cool, we'll talk about that too, but just tell me that narrative in 10 billion years and I'll tell you if I agree or not. You think agnostic? Oh, you haven't seen me debate. No, that's cool. I think that's a compliment. I'll be yeah, what are you, if you want to share, what are you, Stephen Winston, right? Yeah, I think I'm atheist because I really like Hitchens is one of my favorite. He's a very powerful polemic writer. I love Buddhism, I love Buddhism. Hell yeah, for an Arizonan. Yeah, I love Buddhism. just simple things. I think as good or better than the Bible in terms of spirituality, like right speak, whatever, right intention, right act. Very peaceful. Sometimes when there's little other peace to be found, right speak. Yeah, cool. Yeah, go find the go find the next one. Exactly, right? Yeah, so and kind of, lining that stuff up. I love Buddhism. I also like the metaphysics of Buddhism. I like the logical systems of Buddhism. I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist scholar. I don't have scholarly knowledge of Buddhism, but and conceptually, I like Buddhism quite a bit. Q&A, have you ever been outside the U.S.? Yeah. Thank you for asking. I've been to what's it called? To Europe. Been to Mexico. I've been to Canada. Very cool. Very cool. Heck yeah. John Gee. I wanted to give you a hard time, but you seem like my kind of dude. We're in Europe. Italy, Florence, Rome, Vatican, and Paris. Paris, France. I bought white shoes. I bought white leather shoes in Italy because I was stupid and I was young. That's what I wanted to do in Europe. Glad I got to go. Glad I got to see it. Glad I got to learn a lot. Very cool. Very neat. It's a cool place. Nice people. Very nice people. Very nice people. Yeah. What do you do for a living? I've done a lot of stuff for a living. If you guys want to talk career stuff sometime, I can try and be less generally American, but kind of meeting people where they're at. I like talking about like managerial stuff. I know I look like a bum. I look like an absolute bum, but I have done customer service. I've done restaurants. I've done tech, managed teams, technology, that kind of stuff. Actual technology, like applications and APIs and stuff like that, and technology as well. So both of those things. So it's always nice. It's always nice. Josh Gee says, just subbed. Cool. Love it. I appreciate it. I was lucky in 2014 to see the Relic Buddha on tour in Fresno. Cool. That's very cool. Yeah. Cool. Customer service is literally hell on earth. Yeah. I was dumb. I had a really good customer service job. If I was older and smarter, I would have just stayed at that company for longer, kind of figured out how to see the opportunity in the bright side and make the best of it. But I was driving at that time. The bullshit of it was I was driving like 45 minutes at least both ways. So I was in the car an hour and a half to go sit and talk on the phone for 8 hours. Yeah, I know. Good job, right? W-2, paycheck, benefits, bonus, that kind of stuff. In a customer service job. Very good job. But driving an hour and a half and then having 9 hours total there, 8 hours on the phone, whatever it was a lot. So shave your beard, pal. Yeah. One day, my friend. One day. Yeah. Driving an hour and a half each day is a lot. It's a lot. Do you believe in the afterlife at all? I don't. I don't really. But yeah. No, I think the questions about life and meaning of life and afterlife, for me, it's more important to ask those while we're alive. Be a little passionate. Hear the music. Hear the composition. That stuff's all good. Customer service is literally hell on earth. Literally hell on earth. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. yeah, if you intuit a spirit or something like that, that's cool. People, in philosophy, there's forms of evidence towards that stuff called testimony. Testimony, or sometimes people can just share a personal experience. That was it wasn't like that big of a topic, but it's an important topic in modern philosophy. It's this topic called private knowledge or personal knowledge. And it's like, yeah, if you feel a certain way or have you've seen a color, you've experienced something, can you share that and can someone understand it? Who knows? But yeah, most philosophers said it's not that big of a problem, right? You can tell someone what you experienced. And if you actually have knowledge that you experienced it, if that counts as knowledge at all, or, whatever, it counts as the conversation that you talked about it, then. So that's personal knowledge, that's a little different than testimony. Usually when we think about testimony, we have epistemic norms, or we have some kind of, whatever the right word is, we have some pool we're pulling from, where we're, I'm in Arizona, so, hey, cabron, come here, my Mexican cousin, she saw, whatever, she saw Maria, she was with her Polish boyfriend. And do you know what he said? He said, I saw him too. So, yeah. Cynthia and Tony, they both saw Maria, and so this is a testimony. It's like, well, were they where they said they were, at the time that they said they saw this? Were they in the right mind? Were there other people present? All these sort of things that make that person's testimony more believable from a philosophy standpoint, right? This isn't about like law or anything. It's like testimony is about, in a sense, philosophy. Yeah, lockdown since COVID year. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Pretty common though, to be honest. Greek mythology. Yeah, so that's very cool. Yeah, it's like a wellspring, right? COVID, people can see it as an opportunity or a cost, or, it's just something that happens. They can find opportunities in areas where they felt their society or community didn't do a good enough job keeping people safe, that kind of stuff. So it's very cool, very cool. Depending on sort of, we heard about COVID genes evolving a couple times, UFOs, tinfoil stuff. Hey, Xenia, I love the Google emojis. I love those, you guys. I'm a big YouTube user myself. I moderate on 1 or 2 other channels. I've got about 100 or 200 subscriptions, people I follow, whatever. I love when I'm in chat picking out those YouTube emojis. Not saying you guys should. I just love that stuff because, hey, Google, put it there. I like my I'm on a flip phone right now, right? That's what I'm live streaming from. I'm, so this phone that I have, it has T9. That's why I don't chat with you guys while I'm doing this, because it's a flip phone, you guys. You think Earth is flat, I assume. What? No. Holography talks about information being 2-dimensional. I suppose that's the same thing as flat. I don't know about flat Earth. I know in the politics Discord, people argue about that stuff all the time. I'm not that big into that. I just don't like that. I've been in flat Earth debates, and yeah, I'm sure if you're part of the community, if they know you, if people trust you, they're nice. But I felt people weren't being very nice. I thought they were being kind of rude and nasty. How do you erase your name from the Epstein list? That is such a good question, right? Object wants to know if anybody's got tips. If anyone's got a Google extension or a Chrome extension, you guys can use DuckDuckGo also, as well as a what's it called, a VPN, if you guys need to. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Pretty sure that's how it works. Fair question. Fair question. Fair question. All right. I'm just hoping, Zeus, that you is a real you and you're not just switching subjects because you're high on anything. Because if you're not, then you're super cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think so. It'd be news to me for sure. I did say holography, so that's how you guys know I'm smart. I talked about modern physics, modern cosmology. I don't know what the story is. You guys know? So weird. I'll go do that tomorrow. That's how I deal with my stress. Is not a mathematician, but if I have an interesting physics, cosmology is like my second love. The world takes everything from you. At some point, the world takes your teeth. At some point, it takes your sense of joy. Right? Here's the doomer stuff. At some point, the world takes your ability to manage your stress, or when you solve it, it gives you more stress. At some point in time, there's really nothing left except considering more problems. And that's who you decided to be, and so that's who you become. So you believe the Earth is round? Yeah, I believe the Earth is round. I believe that the universe, it's probably fine to say, is a large, asymmetric, four-dimensional space. I think the universe has really different physics operating at the bounds. I think it'll probably continue to be true as time goes on that the physics in the observable universe are actually a little weirder, more strange than we conceive them to be possible to be. I think there's going to be I think one sense it's going to be hard to build a lot of new theory in like classical mechanics and relativity. And so I think as those go down, either we get these more fundamental descriptions or we get more weird theories of everything. Guys like Donald Hoffman, guys like Eric Weinstein, all that stuff. That's just what I'm feeling right now. So was the Trump foiled assassination a fake ploy to get him elected? I think most likely, the most obvious explanation was it was a mentally ill young man, and it was a strange context for a political event where people dropped the ball. Something that should never happen when you're protecting a former president and someone who might be the next president. Some situation where you're actually thinking about the safety of everyone, even bad actors. You're also considering how to keep the event safe. How is this a safe event? Because a president or a former president and next president is going to be here. Bottom line, that is your one job. I don't think that happened. And so, yeah, I think that stuff is only deep state if you are really pessimistic about the world. You guys saw LA actually, what was it? A judge just said that no more ICE raids in LA. I didn't read the ruling yet, but they said without due process, or without probable cause or something, whatever it was. They said no more ICE raids in LA. So I have optimism. Would I ever have children, especially if the Earth was not flat? Yeah, I think having kids on a round world would be good. Is Trump a reptilian? Hey, good to see you, Whitebeard. I don't know if I've seen you here before, but hello. Welcome to Duck's Why. I'm Duck, aka Nathan Swift. I don't think Trump is a reptilian. I don't think he is. I think he's a real estate magnate. I think he's a guy who's always been good in front of the camera. People have always loved Trump. So I don't know that I'm like the smartest guy in the world to address that, but yeah, I think it's a very boring story, actually. What isn't boring is, I don't know. He's been in the limelight. He's had an arc, I'm sure if you asked Donald Trump personally, he'd be great at telling you when he was getting political questions, when people just wanted to know about Donald Trump, when they wanted to know Donald Trump's opinion about stuff, that kind of thing. Yeah, you too. But Yeah, maybe that is what a reptilian asks, though. Maybe it is. Who knows? Ether Madness says, I thought it was fake as I watched it, especially when he asked for shoes 3 times. Acton says, this content is boring. Thanks for nothing. Sorry, Acton. Yeah. Apologize for being boring. Epstein files deleted by the CIA. Acton's leaving before we even get into anything. Bro's mad. His comment got auto-modded. We can't say bad words on the channel or Google stop it. And I'm not turning that setting off. I changed 2 settings on every stream, because I love hearing what you guys have to say. It's kind of what makes the stream fun, right? For me to do it. I just make sure that I can see all the comments and I set up a poll every time. I don't know why, but I shared that. Yeah, I think there's probably more for like CIA conspiracies. My conspiracy theory with the CIA is that there's probably more actually really messed up conspiracy theories that you don't know about. Maybe they're not even that big, but there's probably some really messed up stuff. And the reason I say that is because you can go read all of the CIA research online, everything that's declassified, you can look it up. Not to go do it, but like, you know, before you reach the age of 40, at some point, if you're in the US, just go see what's been declassified, right? If you're interested in that kind of stuff. And it's crazy, you know? Like Cambodia, you have the Khmer Rouge, and you have CIA research on people starving that country, right? You know, you got some guy named, you know, Richard from wherever who he's got a little bag of cash. He knows people or something, or, you know, however he's figuring it out, but, you know, he's out there and figuring out what the actual reality is while we're running these illegal campaigns. And so to imagine that none of that stuff ended up nefarious or sort of weird, it's hard to believe in however many years, 60 or 70 years of CIA history at this point. There are CIA references to flat Earth. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Pol Pot was a bad dictator. He was a bad man, yeah. Yeah. They set up, there's this mentality of shoot the gap, right? The world was globalized and it was globalizing faster and faster. And there was always this appearance of foreign support, no matter what you were doing, foreign support and foreign opposition. These were the proxy wars during the Cold War and during detente periods. You're talking or you're not talking, or however people say it. Grandpa thinks it is a flat world. Hey, Jessica, if that's the same Jessica, good to see you again. Iran-Contra and the FARC rebellion. I don't know what the FARC rebellion is. I know Farkistan. Any Ziz fans? Hardstyle. CIA selling crack to people on behalf of Contra rebels. Yeah, that's a pretty dark one. Must have really wanted that $20 million. Try it on, see how it feels. Try it on, see how it feels. You know? Who knows? Hard to say otherwise. That's a useful narrative, though. You know, you have a bad actor who, you have a bad system that contains a bad actor in the CIA, and they see a problem they don't like and they want to solve it, and they do it by creating a problem they don't like that no one wants to solve or something. Like, have it your way, have it your way. That's where opposition flows in the world. That's where opposition flows when small moves big, big moves small. Very crazy. Rory Tater says, release the Epstein files now. Colombia. Yeah, believe anything. Yeah. My fan of JP. Um, yeah, I'm a fan of JP a little bit. So, okay, so yeah, I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson because he has an academic background. He doesn't lie about academic topics that he covers. He shares an interesting perspective on them. Um, I'm not a fan of JP because I think he puts too much of his own personal advice on things. I think he's too willing to bend to what an audience has wanted. And I think he's vocal without being careful about his own Christian values. Um, I think that's a lot of cultural hegemony and like, you know, it's one of the things he rallies against, but it's like, look at what you're doing, Jordan Peterson. Look at what you've done. No offense. We got some messages coming in being blocked, so I'm just gonna check these out. Jesse Top G Peterson says small BFB. Yeah. Yep. You've got your jerks and your scumbags, and when your scumbags get all into your jerks, and when they don't pay their freaking fair share, all that stuff gets totally messed up. Yeah, I think that's an okay message personally, but I've got Jesse Top G Peterson also says big but small. Yeah, those are good messages. Jesse, if you want to say something cool without the F word, Google let it through. I'll read them anyways, in at least that little bit. But yeah, what's your opinion on why Trump is not releasing the Epstein files? I think it's because it wasn't that interesting. I think if they were actually really corrupt Epstein files and it was as severe as everyone said it was and persistent, and there was actually directly involving that many people, there would have been some sort of operation to get the information to a journalist. That's maybe too optimistic. I think someone would have made that choice. They would have decided to do that. So somebody would have. Am I wrong? Let me know if I'm wrong. I shouldn't trust my government. That's fine. Okay. Cash and Bongiorno sold us all out. I do. Yeah, Cash Patel and Dan Bongiorno. Yeah. Hey, they spent time on social media. They're successful, so I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I don't know. What's your opinion on Give Me Liberty? Hey, we'll do an optimistic stream sometime soon. If I can just right here and now say, if you've lost your faith and hope in the world, you don't have to. You don't have to. Yeah. If you, that's as motivating as I can be. You don't have to. If you can find 10 or 15 minutes or 10 or 15 seconds of something that's inspiring, makes you think about something differently, who knows? You don't have to. Yeah, you don't. Do you think gang stalking is a thing? I don't disagree with people's experience. We're talking about personal knowledge, private knowledge. I don't think it would ever be good for like a therapist or friend to severely doubt someone. I also don't think it would be useful to fuel a description about the world that seems unlikely. So definitely, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't think it's ever fair to treat someone as a means instead of an end because you think they're crazy. Doesn't matter if you think they're crazy. It doesn't matter if you're right. That still doesn't justify not giving them the same treatment, Josh, that I think everyone deserves. I think, yeah. Journalists had the story a decade ago, dude. Okay. All right, we got. It looks like Team Cover Up is winning right now. Looks like Team Cover Up is winning. All right, Jesse just won. Donald Trump is actually a kitty diddling robot created by AT&T in 1989. Yeah. AT&T used to be a really great company. They connected America, so why wouldn't they be at the center of basically everything. Yeah, they'd have to be. Even if you know or don't know about them, AT&T is a good American company, good example of an American company. I'd encourage you to look at companies who build technology that help people get to work. But also those telephone poles, telephone lines, if I'm doing Bernie Sanders, are the one reason why we need unions in the United States. Let me know what you think, chat. That's like the UK Prince Andrew. Do you have bed bugs living in the beard? No, Spitzwackle, I don't. My beard's healthy. It's healthy. It's type shit, I think is what people say. Ford was a great company in the 40s in Detroit. And now all the Republicans want to talk about is Dearborn, Michigan. You're a French soldier? Antoine Fernandez, hey, good to see you. Are you a, what's it called? French Foreign Legion or something? Yeah, thanks for coming over. Or just, yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, cool. Good to have you. Yeah, the United States, we have a really long-standing tradition with military stuff. A lot of it on social media, all kinds of places, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, enjoy your time here, I hope. Enjoy your time. Hopefully it's fruitful and it's good, right? So, I want to hear something disgusting. Diddy? Okay, yeah. Josh, please be careful about that stuff. I have to, yeah. That stuff is going a little bit way too far. Antoine, how do you feel about your tranny first lady? All right. European politics and stuff in chat. Saying mean stuff. Why don't you just look at me, right? Just Google stuff. If you think you want to make accusations against a politician, first Google it. Just say it a better way. Truth to power. Yeah, I'm not for ICE raids that are overtly violating what I see as due process in the law enforcement, the sort of executive side of stuff. I think the executive is bound by that law for reasons that should show up in court in most cases. So, so you guys can disagree. I know some people have those strong opinions. But all I need to know is, I saw Abrego Garcia, his lawyer was saying, they're arguing that they have to file some writ if they want to deport him and give them some notice, give the legal team notice. Why is this? Well, if you don't want a ChatGPT or whatever it is version of lawyers, you have due process. So French Navy commando, learning some JTAC and coordination things. Cool. Well, you're going to be way beyond whatever I would ever learn in my lifetime. I'm not a veteran. I've got grandparents on both sides that served. So cool. And yeah, I hope it's useful, educational, and whatever, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff or something. All that stuff, as it were. Y'all figure it out yourself, says Mama. Yeah, I got to figure it out yourself. We got a lot of toys in the United States for sure. That's what I've been thinking about recently. More recently, we got a lot of toys in the United States. Maybe you're not for a big military spending budget. We're not that kind of channel here, by the way. But yeah, we got a lot of toys. How do we make the most out of even our scientific equipment, stuff like good companies, good real estate retail locations? It sounds like such a weird, off-putting, non-political conversation, but it's so practical. Someone can make a decision to either go make money or to go do something good or just learn something. You don't have to solve something right now. So a lot of toys here in the United States, though, for sure. So, yeah. Oh, Eduardo's conspiracy theory. Let's go. My conspiracy theory is that all of these ICE raids are fake and it's all propaganda so that the USA can see how the public reacts to deporting people. I hate it. Yeah. That's pretty vicious. If to me, that's really scary. That's really scary to think that information isn't real. Yeah, I don't think it's like that, right? I think we saw Donald Trump talking about it for months and then doing it. So I support peace. I support peace in the Middle East. I'll say more sometime, but support both Israel and Palestine. Israel has the right to defend itself, and over 100-year period, they should still be doing that. So what does that mean? That usually means peace, usually means stronger and more effective regional efforts. Yeah, so why would you build something like Alligator Auschwitz? Yeah, Alligator Auschwitz, Gator Getmo. I think those are reactive political terms. Sorry, not sorry, but yeah, I don't know. Post-truth society. There it is. Now you're speaking to the soul of this. Yeah, people come in this chat just today, maybe how I'm feeling too, saying they don't have faith in society and humanity and the world anymore. Post-truth society. All you got to do is tell people the truth and trust them to, trust them with the truth. Yeah. Conspiracy theories. Yeah. From geopolitics, the one I share on here, some of you guys have heard this. The U.S. invaded Iraq and Afghanistan to destabilize the whole Middle East. That's one conspiracy theory I think it's just whatever. It's a story. Another interesting conspiracy theory is that as far back as the 1960s, prior to the Great Leap Forward in China, that the United States government had an agreement to share a multipolar world with China. That's also an interesting one. I don't think there's any reason to believe those. And it's not useful. If it is true, why is it true, or how is it true? How? But yeah, only if you guys ask me about conspiracy theories will I talk about conspiracy theories. These aren't deeply held or researched beliefs, and they shouldn't be. They're just funny. Sophie14 says only BBC. Yeah, I talked about Stephen Fry earlier on the stream. I think he had shows on BBC. Joe Balls, Louis Correa, good to see you. Americans are sleeping concerns about Israel. Fix your government in hoods. Yeah, Louis, people should be talking about justice, Louis. That's the only opinion I'll offer right now. People should be talking about what justice can be and what it has to be. I don't think it's that complicated. If we're supporting Israel, and we're also seeing Hamas use the Al-Qassam brigades from the Second Intifada to attack Israel, and we should be asking, like, well, why are leaders deciding to fund this instead of something else, right? What is justice about this? How did they decide to not solve a different type of problem before this? It's a very simple question. Very hard to answer, but it's a very simple question. Yeah. Ask Benjamin Netanyahu, ask whoever's leading Hamas, or how did you decide on this one? What'd you get back? If I can't be upset, explain it to me. Explain it to me, please. God damn it, right? I'm so frustrated. It's on the news every single day. And the more time that goes by, the more time you see fake news, you see propaganda, you see avoidance, you see talking heads. Someone was talking about the Godhead. You see these religious justifications. You see nut jobs sharing ideas. And they're not even the nut jobs, right? It's this crazy world. It's this crazy stuff. It's the lack of transparency. Someone made a bad decision, and it's way stupider. It's 10 times, it's 30 IQ points lower than you thought. And they're not even wrong for it, right? As far as you can go, there is not a way to explain to the people who have lost their lives, who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their sense of hope and optimism towards a better world, why that happened. That's why I'm frustrated. So Lewis said, young Americans are sleeping, concerns about Israel, fix your government and hoods. Let's fix it all. Let's fix the conversation. Let's fix the knowledge. Let's fix what people care about. Let's just fix it so we can live together and move forward. Be tolerant first. Be tolerant and trust people. Have trust that people are smart enough to understand. And if you don't want to understand right now, you don't even have to. Don't be part of the problem, though. Truth is IUSOS going down. Pat Wilderbeest says truth is IUSOS going down. Yeah. I'm gonna pop off. You guys are gonna see me one of these days. I'll buy a Chromebook. I'll have one of those 360 swivel cameras and stuff. I have money for it, but it would be like just for that, right? I don't know how people are supposed to think about money. Yeah. Am I supposed to ask you guys if you'll give me money one day? Yeah, I want a good OS in my office, and then I'll get a good OS for our US government. Justice is the operating system. And the thing about justice is, if you have a coherent definition of justice, it is built-in antivirus protection. And yeah, everything's free. Everything's actually free. You can live with even bad outcomes if you have a just outcome. Everything is free. And at some point, this is the thing about it. If we were talking about what is best for people consenting to a government or a system, people in their totality having a hope or a dream. Simple stuff. If we were consenting to that kind of stuff, at some point, the worst that can happen is someone says, oh, eat a fucking dick, right? I'm not going to swear that often on this channel, but eat a fucking dick. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? What actually have you been doing, thinking about? Why don't people know about these new problems we're facing or these new tragedies? Why are there tragedies going on and no one is talking about them? Get over yourself. Get over yourself and make it simpler. Make it simpler because it's never been that complicated, and it isn't. So address the problem. We shouldn't have foreign countries lobbying our government. Pat, don't call me silly or stupid if I don't know that's a Russian flag or a French flag. What is this? Russian, French? I don't remember. Sorry if I got that one confused. Crack the whip, somebody. Let's get to work. Let's get to grinding a little bit. Water-cooled PC, bro. Threadripper CPU. Hell yeah. I'm gonna have an 69 core CPU. 420 core CPU. Les Grossman. Oh God. Oh my God. What are you guys patient about? What are you guys not patient about? If you're talking about justice, what is the optimal word? What else is a person? Not that patient, as it turns out, but that's why you can be patient. Sophie says, I want big. Pat Wildebeest says Melanie Trump is a man. Please no misgendering people. Yeah. Sorry, Joe. That's at least 5 minutes. I know that one too, Joe. I love having you here. Love you. Yeah, not going to talk about it. Yeah. I see this one, okay? Same thing. Same thing. All right. Red Harlow says, can the Ukraine stay cold forever? Is the Ukraine a cold conflict right now? When we look at the total force output possible in a kinetic war from Russia, I don't think that's I think that is, okay, good point, Pat. Maybe it's a little conspiratorial. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a little less conspiratorial. It's a little less conspiratorial because, yeah, it's difficult to imagine a world where escalating violence doesn't forever lead to escalations. It's difficult to imagine what that world must be like and how and why that's the case. How and why that would be the case. So let me know what you guys think. Say it the other way around too. If you are, I don't know that people are allowed to support the war on Ukraine on YouTube, but yeah, Russian tariffs have been high for a long time. Inflation has been bad. There has been a turned ear and uncaring gaze from the world about everyone's problems, and then we are somewhat surprised. Only at some point in time are we surprised. So, all that kind of stuff. Do you worry about the next decade? I'm 20 and terrified of what the future might be like for our generation. Now, I was just talking about this. I don't know where in the world you are. My advice for young folks is, if you have a job, or if you're finding a job, whatever, go get a job. Just decide. Just go decide. Go research. Get it. Try and find out what makes the job interesting. What makes it worth it. What you learn there. What other people learn. If that's how you see the world and think. There's a YouTube channel called Predictive History. They talk about a lot of the sort of fear stuff, predictions. I'd have to think about it more. I don't totally buy it. World will be irreparable by 2050. Yeah, go do something about it. Go start at a call center. Go start at a restaurant. Set your mind to being part of a sustainable world well before the year 2050. All my folks in MAGA, go get yours, right? Go get some, go get yours, support the community. If you're about that sustainable life or whatever it is, set your intention to be an asset to people who respect you and treat people as ends. Whatever. Australia, I work civil engineering, but it's so obvious to me that we're all redundant. Civil engineering, is that like, it's not like utilities and stuff. I don't know what that is. Civil engineering. Sorry. There's, the simplest way that I could say I see that is that there's always a world where there's limitations in markets based on job type, the actual need of the job. And then there's 100 different ways to see how different firms, how different employees, how different people in the market view the success of the work. So you can't escape it. But about a redundancy, at least, redundancy is a function of, bad macroeconomics. It obviously doesn't pay your bills, but more useful. Egg addict adds or says, what's up, homie? Good to see you. Global warming isn't far off of hitting a tipping point. And our carbon and other greenhouse gas emissions are only going up. So we've got a mechanism and the drivers are still there. Yep. Yeah, in the context of Earth as a system with both non-renewable and renewable resources, lots of other stuff going on planet Earth. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways people can find to understand the problem. I feel like it is very disconcerting for some people when they hear about global warming, but what do you do? What do you do? If you have a math equation that's telling you what's happening, several of them, if you have models, right? Models are mathematic. If there's not really room in that model to be drastically wrong or the result is severe, but you actually have epistemic reasons to sort of dig into it. Well, what do you do? Zoom out, right? Be a CEO. Be a CEO, be a worker, make those small choices, make the small difference. Don't get recognized, don't get recognized, don't get recognized. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter until it does. So we'll do optimism right now. A little optimism. No. What do you think about BlackRock? Yeah, BlackRock, I think, if I'm not remembering incorrectly, BlackRock's been slow to pick up on some of the what's it called? ESG funds. Maybe I'm getting it backwards. BlackRock was pushing for it, was against it. But yeah, I think it's difficult. I don't have an opinion about BlackRock specifically. I used to work at Vanguard, by the way, but not that it matters. But I think it's difficult for a public market to appropriately value risk. I think that's a good reason for us to get along with the rest of the world too. They probably think so too. So, but that doesn't avoid the equation either. Yeah, make it useful. Hey Donald, good to see you. Yeah, Donald, if someone in chat is saying something too inappropriate or whatever, let me know. Yeah, those kind of words sometimes get flagged, but yeah. Exactly. The oceans are dying. Yeah, cool. Swedish chef. Oh, are you actually in Sweden? You're actually in Sweden? Hey, what's up from the United States? I used to work in a Swedish company. I prefer white rocks. Big white rocks to black rocks. Yeah. We'll all get there one day. Yeah, it's cool. Sweden has a lot of good companies. I don't know that much about Swedish culture, but cool place in Sweden. And yeah. Who knows? Vanguard must be evil, yeah. No says Russia won't hesitate to use nuke if they start getting overpowered. Yeah, I'm always afraid of seeing nuclear tests. I'm always afraid of seeing people intimate or announce a nuclear test. This is sort of a big deal. Again, it's not that, right? This is not that scary. We're talking about the nuclear triads. We're talking about Russia, the United States, China, and India. They have submarines, they have planes, and they've got missiles. Those are called nuclear triads. But yeah, serious, big-time adult topic. Get out if you don't want to hear about it for 30 seconds. But because I'm going to say it, not that scary. But there's a reason. France got rid of their subs. I think France is the one that got rid of their subs. There's a reason Britain got rid of planes and ICBMs. And there's a reason that like a nuclear test is a very serious symbol, that you still respond to something like this. you shouldn't be just testing nuclear weapons in 2025. So, and have I ever been arrested? I don't know. None of y'all's business. Or does it change? Yes or no? That's my question back. What if I have or haven't been arrested or been to jail or been to prison or been to whatever? Would you guys see me differently? That's the first question you would ask. So, I mean, we have more bombs and a hypersonic bomber now too. Yeah. Yeah, Charlie Rooney for sure. Lots of scary stuff. Those programs take a lot to maintain. Very expensive, difficult to communicate, maybe tough to navigate. Anything important and big takes 100 times more resources than most people imagine. So, and yet there we are. So, yet there we are. Yeah, the United States is the everyone who's ran nuclear tests has technically they've nuked Gaia, Earth Mother. So. Only Pakistan doesn't. Yeah, what do they? Pakistan has air. I don't know. I have to. I'll look it up sometime or whatever, maybe. Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer, Swedish chef. Yeah. Yeah, public intoxication. It can happen. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty common in the US. There's people who get arrested for alcohol related disorder or whatever, and yeah, sometimes the system is helpful, sometimes yeah. One of my I had a close friend who got arrested for peeing behind an alley, kind of in the bar district. And so yeah, he's not going to get too hurt from, a little slap in the face, but he's not normally the person I would think of to get arrested for that. It just happens. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people in the United States who don't think they've had a drinking problem or only casually recognize it and do. I don't mean to stress anyone out with that, but we don't judge. Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie. If you want to explain how you see like a deterrence theory or mutually assured destruction or sort of game theoretic approach, bigger is better doesn't usually cut it, right? Because there's multiple actors. There's usually both zero and equal sum games, and in addition to the sort of totality of the zero sum game, which is or negative sum game of equally whatever. There's relative and absolute advantages, and there's Pareto, and so yeah. But bigger doesn't always equal better. It does mean you have it, right? Oh, you guys got it. Nagasaki was not fine. Are you a Zionist, Yahadi, Israel? Zionist? No, I'm not in Israel. Yeah. Yeah, I know Zionism for some people is like political reality, or it's used to sort of substitute for political reality. Maybe both, a little of both. But yeah. I'm not my personal okay, Zionism, cool. Understood, understand it. I don't know. I'm not sure. Steven asks a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's a good question. Oops. We've got a. Oops. Yeah, Musa says, I think the fact the U.S. says it's beneficial that there should be, no more nuclear powers is complete BS. In order to make the world safer, it would be better either if everyone is a nuclear power or no one is. Yeah, that's like the really grown up adult stuff, is that if you're actually talking about nuclear deterrence, that also means that people are willing to use their nuclear weapons. They never do, but right, in theory and in practice, they never do. You have lots of signaling and other means of aggression that's possible. That may be about nuclear weapons, maybe about existential threats themselves, but it is itself never actually never going to use it. So, but yeah, if someone's never going to use it, then that doesn't satisfy the condition of mutually assured destruction, and it's not then clear what a deterrence from an outside actor would look like. I don't know how to even say that. There's probably some really big complex words. So yeah, so it's kind of like a party. It's kind of like a party, you know. Yeah, a little bit, right? A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So, U.S. is an existential threat to the world. Yep, but you know, people are people everywhere, right? So, who said that? Pat Wilderbeest. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you too hard, but also, why aren't people in any place going to still ask for giant computers and cars and everything else? And then they're going to go sell those things when they work. So, you want me to be a U.S. apologist? I will do that. I don't want to, but it doesn't make sense when you do have a place like the U.S. not talking about anything to be more efficient or solve the problem or help other folks, whatever the problem is. The problem of the day, folks. No sense, no need. No sense and no need for whatever. Optimistic things, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what comes first? Cosmopolitan identity, whatever that means, or furthering non-proliferation talks, furthering talks about global energy, global sustainability. What comes first in that order? That's an optimistic question, I think. Yeah, World Police Force. Very funny, guys. Very funny. Very funny. Hey, Greystone Rogers, good to see you. Thanks for saying hi in chat. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, that's also crazy. You know, nuclear weapons, I think, are also one of the few, actually fewer than many imagine, that isn't just briefed by the president, but there's probably multiple playbooks or scenarios that are almost immediately escalated or escalated up very specific chains of command and land on the president or prime minister's desk along with others, right? I don't know how that would work or whatever, but it's interesting. Well, ICBMs, yeah, a lot of most, even like very crass ICBMs typically have a range of I mean, very good and very crass ICBMs can have a range. They're all very good, right? I mean, relatively all ICBMs are good in 100 meters. So, yeah, and a lot of the different missiles have multiple variants. So you might have a long range version that's got 7,500 mile range or something. Those might have a shorter version. Change the subject. Sorry. I'm gonna crash out soon, guys. I'm getting alerts that my phone battery is low. But yeah, it would be cool to see you guys again. Very chill night stream. Sometimes I stream earlier, sometimes later. That's all about me. So yeah. When you think the AI tech bubble will pop, yeah, when the rest goes pop, AI will go down, and it will likely be like, yeah, get your dollars and cents ready, kids, right? I think AI will be like, who knows, maybe you have a couple companies that struggle out of a recession in the next 10 years or something, but yeah, there's always a story or a narrative. It's always based in reality, right? So are you retired? I wish one day I will retire. Right now I'm just taking a break.